Good evening, everyone, and thanks for your attendance for those in the gallery and those joining us online for what is our first council meeting for financial year 25-26. Councillor Knight has volunteered to do the acknowledgement of country.
Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples as the first peoples of the country. We also acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our respects to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Agenda item 2 is apologies, request for leave of absence and request to attend by electronic means. There are none known at this time. Agenda item 3 is the Good Governance Pledge, which Councillor Aldridge has volunteered to read.
Wodonga councillors have committed to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the municipal community, abide by the Model Code of Conduct and uphold the standards of conduct set out in the Model Councillor Code of Conduct, faithfully and impartially carry out and exercise the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in the office of councillor under the Local Government Act 2020 and any other act to the best of their skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Agenda item 4 is declaration by councillors of any conflict of interest. Are there any declarations? No declarations of conflict of interest. Moving on to agenda item 5, confirmation of the minutes from the previous meeting of June the 23rd. Any questions or comments? And if not, could I have a mover for the recommendation? Could that be confirmed? Thank you, Councillor Cowan. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. In June, we had 2 council meetings, so we had another one on June the 30th. We've got a recommendation there before us regarding the confirmation of the minutes. Again, any questions or comments on those minutes? If not, could I have a mover? Councillor Hall and a seconder, Councillor Aldridge. Thank you very much. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 6 is question time. No questions. Thank you, CEO. And no petitions. Which now then leads us into agenda item 8, Delegates report. Item 8.1, the National General Assembly, and there's a recommendation there before us. Someone can move for that recommendation. Councillor Cowan, thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Knight. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to that as the mover?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report is there, furnished and provided by the Mayor and I on our attendance at the National General Assembly. I think the report speaks for itself. The theme of the National General Assembly was national priorities need local solutions, and I think that really resonated with the crowd that was there. It was a record attendance of 1,300 delegates, and extraordinary logistics go into that, as you can imagine, but it was fascinating to compare notes with councillors and CEOs across the nation, really, from various different and diverse communities, and recognise where we have commonalities. But I think the report speaks for itself, and I'd welcome any questions. I know that the Mayor would like to add a few words as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Knight, happy to reserve. Thank you. Any other councillors like to speak to that? I was just going to make some comments too on the NGA. No. Endorsing Councillor Cowan's comments, but also just acknowledging the importance of being at conferences like that. As Councillor Cowan said, 1,300 participants, over 550 councils, I think, nationwide, having attendance at the NGA. A lot of incredible guest speakers. I think standout, in my opinion, was Bernard Salt, who spoke about why it's good to be in regional Australia. And he talked about the confluation of a number of factors, being cost of living, but also millennials' preference now for choosing where to live based on lifestyle. And the other factor being that global megatrend of growing populations and demand for food, and regional Australia being well, in particular where we are here, tapped into a food bowl that's going to be supplying a global growing population. So presented a very, very positive picture about why it's good to be living and investing in regional Australia. But I think also, in addition to that, opportunity to network. The Deputy Mayor and I managed to meet with other mayors, but one in particular, Stephen Jolly, who's leading a bit of a metro push against the ESVF as an example, and also some advocacy regarding some key projects that Wodonga has with Minister McBain, Minister for Regional Development, while we're in Canberra. If there are no other questions or comments, I'd like to put it to a vote unless you want to write a reply.
No, thank you.
No. All those in favour of the motion? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9.1 is the MAV State Council meeting. There's a recommendation before us, and I also suspect potentially an alternative motion has also been proposed. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to put forward an alternate motion to the one that is recommended, and it relates to our advocacy against the proposed emergency services and volunteer levy. I can read that motion if people would like.
If you could, so we can then seek a seconder.
Thank you. The motion now reads that Council does submit a motion to the MAV State Council meeting scheduled for October 10th, 2025, under the focus area of sustainable economy as follows. That the motion is that the MAV with Regional Cities Victoria and Rural Councils Victoria to advocate to the Victorian Government against the implementation of the proposed emergency services and volunteer levy, and in particular oppose the proposal for the levy to be collected by local governments on behalf of the state.
Thank you very much. Could I seek a seconder for that? Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. I think it just falls in line with our previous advocacy. I know that Councillor Hall would put forward a motion on the 23rd of June in urgent business, and we all voted unanimously to support that motion in opposition to the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund levy. And I think if I can just speak from my recent experience in the collective advocacy of the state, on the weekend, councillors from across the state, and any councillor was invited, I might add, from it, to go along. But it included councillors from metropolitan, regional and rural councils. And look, we really came together with the view that this is an unfair, unworkable levy. And this just isn't another policy proposal. It's actually a $3 billion tax grab from our communities. Regional and rural communities are being disproportionately burdened, and councils are turned into tax collectors with really no prior consultation. So I think that the MAV, being our state body of representatives, is the collection to carry forward this type of advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Aldridge.
Yeah, so collective advocacy is really important here. Collecting the levy on behalf of the state imposes a financial and administrative burden on Wodonga Council, and without transparent guarantees from the state government of how the levy will lead to measurable environmental improvements, I think its purpose is questionable. So I think it's important that we support this motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Hall.
Yes, I'm in agreements with what has been said, and also later in under reports for information, we have a report on the emergency service levy, volunteers fund levy, and it itemises or gives an estimate on how much this will burden our ratepayers. So I'll have more to say on that when we get to that, but it definitely is a burden, and it's a lot of money possibly being taken out of our community, and it'll be interesting to see if we get anything back. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors?
I just have a question. So that motion, did it, as it reads on this, it was that the MAV work with regional cities? Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think you said work. That was all.
Oh,
I
beg your
missed-
pardon.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just wanted to cross it off. That was it.
Thank you, Councillor Knight, for that clarity. Councillor Cowan, would you also mind reading the rationale to that before?
Sure. The rationale that's been provided here and lines up with our previous considerations is, while councils are supportive of the great work done by emergency services personnel and volunteers, the proposed levy places an undue financial burden on local communities at a difficult financial time and risks undermining community trust in councils through cost shifting from state to local government in the collection of funds for a purpose not assigned to local government. The state government should be the responsible authority for collection and administration of the funds. That is the core business of the state.
Councillor Cowan, given that this motion this alternative motion has been put up just recently, and there hasn't been perhaps adequate time to consider the exact wording, would you be open to also including in that the CEO be authorised to make minor amendments to comply with NAB's
Yes.
motion requirements?
Yes.
In terms of formalising that as part of the motion, does that need to be reread?
I think it's clear that the motion originally read, plus the rationale, plus the additional statement becomes part of the motion to councillors, because we will, given that that information is not included in the council report, when they consider the motions, will want to look to see some reference, and given it's not in the report, if it's all included in the resolution, if it passes, then they can look to the minutes to confirm that that information is contained.
Good, thank you for that explanation. And Councillor Aldridge is the seconder. You're happy to have that
that's
as
fine.
part of the motion. Any other councillors like to speak to it? If I can just make a couple of comments. So as councillors are aware, I'm on the board of MAV, and I've been advocating for joint advocacy of both regional cities Victoria, of which City of Wodonga is a member, as well as Rural Councils Victoria, and we had preliminary discussions with the chair of RCV and also the chair of MAV, or the president, in relation to this. And but I'm very, very supportive of this motion going up and hopefully getting supported at the State Council meeting in October. If there are no further questions or comments, if I could put the motion to, would you like to write a reply, Councillor Cowan?
Thank you. No, I think we've covered everything.
Good. If that's the case, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9.2 is the transfer of easement for 7B McFarland Road. Again, there's a recommendation there before us. Do we have a mover or an alternative motion?
I'm happy to move it if nobody else.
The alternative one?
This is the wording. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to read the motion in full?
Yes, please. So
You need a seconder.
I'll get Councillor Aldridge to read the motion in full and then seek a seconder.
Buckle in, everyone. It's a long one. Council resolves to support and give notice of the proposed creation and transfer of an easement to AusNet Services and conducts a public engagement process in accordance with Council's community engagement policy in respect of the grant of the easement and the requirements under Section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020. The 21-day public notice shall stipulate that persons may make a submission on the proposed grant of easement. If submissions are received, A future report be presented to a council meeting at the conclusion of the public notice period for a final determination of this matter. And if no submissions are received, that the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to undertake all the necessary administrative processes to enable the above.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Could I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak to it?
Yep, a resolution was reached by the council on the 15th of April 2025 to discontinue part of the road sell of the discontinued portion of 7B McFarland to Grover Max Proprietary Limited. The resolution was passed before adequately notifying relevant statutory authorities about any rights or interests they may have under Section 207C of the Local Government Act, such as control over sewers, drains, pipes, wires or cables beneath the road. And council officers have progressed the road discontinuation process, but are now required to undertake this necessary step as advised by its legal advisors.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to it? No. Any other councillors, questions or comments? Councillor Quilty.
Just a quick note, please. A resolution on 15th of April 2024. I saw that in 25, just to avoid any misunderstanding.
Yeah, sorry, 2024.
There is there's
some inconsistencies in the page.
page 46 of 108 under discussion. The first sentence refers to your point, Councillor Quilty, that this was reached by council on the 15th of April 2025, which is a typo from 2024. Just noting that error in the paper.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Aldridge, would you like any other
I
reply?
think this one's pretty straightforward.
Good. If it's the case, all those in favour? They carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9.3 is Wodonga Creek Activation Project Reciprocal Lease. Again, there's a recommendation there before us. Seeking remover. Thank you, Councillor Hall. A seconder. Councillor Quilty, thank you very much. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, this is just to further to go forward with our Wodonga Creek activation project. It's a reciprocal lease, so it's allowing us to footpath that will connect the creek to connect the suspension bridge over Wodonga Creek to Diamond Park Precinct. The purpose of this is to go into an agreement for a portion of Crown Land allotment 2037, which joins property and land title volume 9374, folio 979. It's, as I said, it's allowed enable the construction of a footpath to connect with the suspension bridge over Wodonga Creek. Council would install fencing to clearly define the leased boundaries. I think it's much needed footpath because we want to connect the Diamond Creek precinct as it forms part of the whole activation of Wodonga Creek. And this will go out for 21 days public notice, and any submissions will be reported back to a future council for a final determination. But I think it's an important part of this development, and once it's complete, it's going to be a fantastic area for all our community to enjoy. So I'm looking forward to the finished product, but we've just got to go through these hurdles before we get there.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Corky, would you like to speak to this a second?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, not much to add. Any submissions from the community are welcome within the next 21 days of public notice being issued. It is hopefully going to be a really nice part once the footpath is constructed, and hopefully everything will work well within the budget and without too many hurdles.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Crawley. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, just basically say that I quite often check my Strava. I'm always walking the paths around there, and I think having this connected link will be fantastic to the area. It really does open up a lot of extra walks that people can do. And it's also part of our tourism as well. Like a lot of people come to our region and just want to walk around those tracks. It's very beautiful. So this is something that's really positive, and I do encourage the community to engage with this process.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Any other comments or questions? If not, put it to a vote.
So just one thing, it's a peppercorn lease, so there's no cost to the community, ratepayers.
$1 each.
$1. But so I just thought I've got to put that out there because it's an important thing to put out there too.
And Councillor Hall, as the mover, would you like anything else to say? Is right reply?
No, that was just what I wanted to.
Good. All those in favour? Yeah, carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9.4 is proposed road names for Avalon Park Estate, stage 6. There's a recommendation there for us regarding the road names. I do have a mover for that or alternative motion.
I'm over half to read the names.
Councillor Knight moving the motion as recommended.
As recommended.
I'm not the
There is a bit of.
Not the
Sorry,
Would you mind, Councillor Knight,
I will
reading
read that one, sorry.
and particularly ensuring we get the pronunciation right?
Certainly will. The council approves the use of the following road names: Arbrook, Gathercole, Penanam, Renkeen and Sanguinetti for the residential subdivision at Avalon Park Estate, stage 6, and authorise the Chief Executive Officer to advise Geographic Names Victoria of the resolution and seek gazettal for use of the road names, and council staff work with developers to ensure a greater diversity of proposed names.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. I think you just qualified for reading out the names on Australia Day. Councillor
I'll
Aldridge,
second that, yeah.
seconder. Councillor Knight, would you like to speak to the motion?
It's pretty straightforward. We have had discussions about naming committees and road naming things. It's ongoing debates, I suppose, but these are the names that have been put forward by the developers. So it's part of their rights to be able to do that. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Councillor.
I'll be supporting the motion tonight, but I'm not particularly inspired by the road names being proposed. And while I understand they reference Australian athletes, the majority seem to be football players with no clear tie to our local area. The names themselves are quite tricky in terms of spelling and pronunciation, which could cause confusion for residents and for postal deliveries. We've had multiple discussions about this, and I honestly believe we could be doing so much better in this space. And I'd really like to see Wodonga establish a dedicated street naming committee again. Something with community input that ensures names are locally relevant, easy to understand and reflect our identity. So yes, I'll support the motion tonight, but as I've said previously, I hope we can look at improving the process.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. I'm going to open up to other councillors for comment or questions. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be actually supporting the motion tonight. While I respect that council staff might in the future work with developers to ensure a greater diversity of proposed names, I think we already have got some naming guidelines outlining the statutory requirements for roads and features and localities. And in 2022, the Gender Equality Act was recognised and acknowledged in the naming rules to support naming places after women. And there are 13 naming principles in those rules from A to N. And principle G is for gender equality. So when putting forward a naming proposal, consideration should be given to gender equality. What we have here is 5 men. I'm not sure if that is representative of the Avalon Park Estate overall. This is stage 6, but I think we can find some fine women to put to the names of streets in Wodonga, and we haven't done it this time.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Any other councillors?
I'm not
Councillor
going to add too much to it, but it is standard for developers to be responsible for road naming. However, it is encouraged that there's a collaborative effort to find suitable themes and names for new roads in new subdivisions. And there are rules and principles that need to be done, it needs to be done in accordance to the naming rules. And whilst I would assume that they have, because it's been, all of these names will go through a reasonably rigorous assessment. But it always is up to council when they come up for us to whether we adopt them or not. I'll be supporting the recommendation to the council in this report, but I think we can do better, but we probably need to have maybe a workshop around how we implement that going forward. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I will support the motion. I agree with Councillor Aldridge about the need for easier spelling, pronunciation to spelling of street names, especially in new states, while the residents and any service providers are getting used to them. Yes, it would be nice to be able to get the names out easily. It is the right of the developers to pick those names, and while I recognize Councillor Cowan's point that Gender Equality Act exists and calls for more gender diversity in the names, I'm inclined to support the right of the developers to make the decision being here. But yes, easier, nicer spelled and pronounced names are very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. I'm likely to be supporting this motion proposed by Councillor Knight, but very supportive of Councillor Cowan's comments regarding gender in reference to names that aren't just male, but also very supportive of Councillor Aldridge's advocacy for the re-establishment of the Place Names Committee. Notwithstanding, clearly Councillor Aldridge is not a Richmond supporter, because I think all but one of these have a link to the Richmond football club. If there are no other comments, I'm going to put it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion: Councillor Moore, Councillor Quilty, Councillor Goble, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Knight. All those against? Councillor Cowan. The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 9.5, Wodonga Sustainability Advisory Committee. There is a recommendation there before us, and also a potential alternative motion. I have a mover. Councillor Cowan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to propose to move the alternate motion that has been circulated to councillors tonight. And that reads that the council adopts the Wodonga Sustainability Advisory Committee Charter and commences as soon as operationally possible. The Wodonga Sustainability Advisory Committee Charter be finalised at the inaugural meeting of the committee and be reviewed at least every 4 years thereafter. And any changes to the charter be reported and considered at the next council meeting. And 4, council to remunerate members of the committee.
Councillor remunerate the members of the committee.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Seconder for that alternative motion.
For the purpose of debate, I'll second it.
Councillor Aldridge seconding it. Thank you. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to what is going on?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor. The sustainability strategy was adopted by Wodonga Council in 2022. It extends for a period from 2022 to 2026. One of the recommendations of that sustainability strategy, which at the time I absolutely applauded Council for adopting in March 2023, was that it form a sustainability advisory committee. I think that since I've been a councillor, I've been contacted by a number of community members who have raised with me that this has been a strategy that's been on the table for a considerable amount of time, and they've been looking forward to this action that was recommended through that strategy being enacted. And I couldn't agree with them more. And I'm very excited by the fact that we do have a number of significant stakeholders working in sustainability and environment that have already expressed a considerable interest in being part of this. And what I get from that is the sense that we are going to be quite impactful. We're going to be able to leverage on the existing knowledge and skills, a bank of expertise, and I think it's going to provide considerable impact to the way that we do work in this space, in sustainability, in considering what we should do and what is enacted for us to do, and in fact is a requirement of the Local Government Act and the Climate Change Act of 2017. Recently, we attended the National Government Assembly, and I was heartened to come across the report that was there, put together, adapting together local government leadership in changing climate, and this very significant analysis, cost-benefit analysis of dollars invested in the community, provides strong evidence that up to $4.70 for every dollar spent is a positive impact when we are looking at what we're doing in the sustainability field. There are real case studies here. We can't actually afford not to act. So I think the evidence is here. We've got the community willingness to be involved. We've got enthusiasm. We've got a strategy that said that we would do this from 2022. It's now midway 2025. Let's get going. We've got so many opportunities and advantages to be had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Aldridge is the seconder.
Let me first start by saying I absolutely believe in the importance of protecting our environment and investing in conservation. Sustainability is a critical issue, and I support practical, effective measures that help us care for our natural resources and plan for the future. But I also believe we need to be smart and efficient in how we do that. The likely recommendations from this committee are fairly predictable, and I'm not convinced the creation of another formal structure at a cost to ratepayers, even if small, is necessary. However, I do appreciate community input, to which there seems to be a desire for this committee. I do acknowledge that this committee was listed as a requirement in the adopted Sustainability Strategy 2022-2026, which this council inherited when it came into office. And as such, while I still have concerns about creating yet another layer of process, I also recognise that we must respect adopted strategies and see them through unless we seek to amend them. I received only one direct email in support of this committee, and that came from the Australian Conservation Foundation's local group. I appreciate their advocacy, but overall, I haven't seen a strong community demand for this. Should this motion be successful tonight, I hope to see numerous people come forward to join this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion or against? Councillor Holt?
I won't be supporting the Wodonga Sustainability Advisory Committee being set up by Council. I would seek an amendment to our sustainability policy that we have in place. Council already is a member of the Golden Murray Greenhouse Alliance, costing us, I think, around 19, could be more, 19,000 a year. This membership does allow for information to be provided to councillors and staff on sustainability programs, information and incentives. We also have an allowance in our budget for $50,000 per year for sustainability incentives. Plus, we have spent many hundreds of thousands of dollars on capital works like replacement of community lighting to be more energy efficient, energy efficient lighting, tree planting, solar panels, etc. So I see councillors are the elected representative to council by the community. A committee would add another layer of bureaucracy and cost, and that, in my opinion, is unnecessary. We do a considerable amount of community engagement and seek community feedback regularly. And as Councillor Aldrich said, I haven't had, there was one email regarding this committee being set up, but speaking to many people, even during the election, the council, many people, from what I engaged with, weren't supportive of large spending of money and their committees being set up because they believe that the councillor being elected is the representative for them at council. So I won't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I also haven't heard any community feedback and haven't had any community contact in support of establishing this committee. I agree with Councillor Hall that the strategy needs to be, well, it's due for a renewal and review in 2026, which is pretty soon, and it does need to be looked and reviewed. Yeah, I also was going to mention the Golden Murray Alliance that is already costing a community a considerable amount of money. The infrastructure, the lights, the trees, and everything else that we have all over Wodonga also have impacted the budget and negatively, but impacted the sustainability situation positively. I agree with both Councillor Hall and Councillor Aldrich about creating an extra formal body that is not necessary. There are multiple ways for community to participate and to engage with councillors and contribute to the work of the council. And I think we will not, well, not to mention the cost of creating this committee and the extra work for the staff. So I think we should continue our sustainability work. We should review the strategy when the time comes. And I have no grudges about our current infrastructure for that helps sustainability. However, I don't think this committee will be necessary. I do, however, encourage that, which is not on the topic, community to engage with us on any sustainability issues that they would like to report to us, and also on other committees that we want to establish, for example, place naming committee. That's a way to engage with us.
Thank you, Councillor Corty. Any other councillors? Councillor Knight.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Quilty and Councillor Hall and Councillor Aldridge on their points. I was actually contacted by, I had 3 different emails, one from Jenny Davis, who is the friend of Rams Barranduda in support of the sustainability committee. Alison and Dick Wellard also in support, and excuse me for reading this phone Bart Citron from the community group leader for the Albury-Wodonga Region Community. It says ACF, AWR, so I'm not quite sure.
It's the one that I mentioned, the Australian Conservation Foundation.
And they're all subgroups in support of it. But in reading through the functions of the committee, to ensure all sectors of the community within the municipality of Wodonga can provide input into the directions and issues considered by the committee. We already do that, as stated. through the council and any of our objectives, to provide information, advice, feedback and views and recommendations to the council. Once again, we received this at a cost of approximately $19,000 from the Golden Valley Sustainability and maybe some others that we haven't heard about yet. The committee shall provide a formal annual report detailing its activities and outcomes to a council meeting by no longer later than 30 September each year. And as Councillor Hall said, this is another layer. We're the elected representatives to deal with this. We'd be getting appointed people that have been remunerated. I think we would find that their interests not necessarily align always with what council is, and we would almost be not obligated, but I would think we would be pushed into a direction that we may not necessarily wish to go. I think the council does a great job now of being sustainable. One of the things I wanted to point out was purple bins. Now, none of us like the purple bins that are coming. Everyone's talked against it, yet somebody thought that was a great idea, and it probably came from a sustainability group that said, let's recycle that part. So not all ideas are great ideas. And like Councillor Quilty said, this is coming up for review 2026. I don't think we should rush into it.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Like Councillor Cowan, I was applauded Council's decision back in 2022 regarding the adoption of the strategy. I see the establishment of this advisory committee as being a very positive step in terms of engagement with our community and potentially some subject matter experts in the area of sustainability. I will strongly be supporting this alternative motion. I see a maximum cost of $3,200 as being quite cost effective, noting also that this is based on a maximum number of meetings of 4 per year with $100 per meeting, of which there's opportunity for participants to provide the services pro bono. If there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to put it to a vote, but I'm also going to, before doing that, seek Councillor Cowan right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, it's a little bit disappointing to hear councillors say, in the face of some, it's extremely enthusiastic community groups who want to be part of this, that we know better. I think committees bring that local expertise into the decision making and informs our processes in a way that really maximises the benefits to us. And I just had a very, very quick look at councils around the state that have committees like this, and within the first sort of look at Google, there were 24 councils that have got these types of committees. There are 70 out of 79 councils that have a sustainability or environmental strategy that deeply embrace those principles of what we are aiming to do. And I think one of the things that I've noticed smaller and resource-constrained councils draw upon the collaborative partnership model that comes with these sort of advisory committees. And rightly and wrongly, Wodonga, for some reason, does not have many advisory committees, and yet we have a community of people with expertise that could make our job better, could make our job easier, and could inform the decisions that we make in really effective and impactful ways. I think to draw the parallel with the GMCA is wrong. The GMCA has a much broader purview, but I will say that the GMCA has also been incredibly effective in its collaboration, and to the point that it has actually achieved through research and project grants $10.5 million worth of benefit to the communities across the Golden Murray region since 2007. It's reduced 75,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions, and projects have saved our councils collectively $6.7 million in efficiencies. And I think when we look at the ambit of a committee that would advise us, we can't afford not to embrace the expertise that we have in our community and the enthusiasm for sustainability that exists. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan, for your right of reply. Now putting the alternative motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Cowan, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Global. All those against? Councillor Knight, Councillor Doughty, Councillor Hall. That's 3 each with the casting vote of the mayor. Motion is passed. Thank you. Agenda item 10 is reports for noting. Agenda item 10.1 is the extraordinary vacancy created through the resignation of previous Councillor Anna Seymour. The report there is for noting. We're happy to have a mover there. Councillor Aldridge, a seconder. Councillor Cowan, did you want to speak to that at all, Councillor Aldridge?
No, I think so.
Councillor Cowan?
I will just say that I think what we're witnessing here in the by-election is some of the impacts of having wards imposed upon us in Wodonga, and I think that rightly the council previously did oppose the imposition of wards, and I think this is one of the drawbacks of having a ward in Wodonga, that one councillor leaves and we're forced to go to this sort of a by-election, and it's costly, and it does impact our council in terms of our operation and functionality during that caretaker period. Yeah, it's an unfortunate impost of the ward system.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, look, it was a discussion with councillors to get some costing on how much this is going to cost the ratepayers. It's still being put together. You know, we've got to get some information off the BEC for that so we can put it together and get an accurate bearing of what it will cost. But you know, there has been talk about that. I've heard 70,000 to 100,000. I don't know, 100,000 is an extreme, but even 70,000 is money that is not being spent or spent in our community, and it's it is a substantial amount of money. I think anyone putting their hand up to be a councillor really needs to be, and look, it's not always things come up, and you know, sometimes it's unavoidable, but be certain about what you're doing and be committed, and look into the job description, because whilst it might seem, you know, you're out there and, you know, in the public and it might seem like a great job to do, it's got a lot of work behind the scenes that you don't see, and there can be a lot of stress and a lot of all sorts of things. So be prepared, and, you know, because we can't afford to keep having these by-elections. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any Councillor Courtney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I could not agree more with Councillor Cowan in saying that this process of by-election that we have to go through is one of the many unfortunate effects of having the ward system imposed on us, which the previous council has opposed so hard, unfortunately to no avail. Councillors are human. While I also do agree with Councillor Hall that anybody putting their hand up for the job should be prepared for all the hardships of the job. While it is rewarding, it is not easy, and 4 years is a long time. It is a big commitment. Yet councillors are humans, and we have had unfortunate cases in previous councils. I'm sure councillors would have preferred not to depart. However, it should be easier. Should a councillor have to resign or for any reason leave the job, it's not. It shouldn't be that hard. By-election is very costly. It's going to cost us more than having a monitor, paying for the monitor cost in the previous council. It's going to create a caretaker period in right in the middle, not quite in the middle, but in the during our term, that is also going to see us being unable to make important decisions. during the caretaker period, while obviously a council goes through several caretaker periods, where should there be a state election or just before the new council election. So every time there is a caretaker period, it's hard enough, it's stalling us, and having another caretaker period is just an extra one is not welcome. I wish we could choose to just have a count back, but we have to have the by-election. It is a strenuous process. We have the state decision to blame for it, and we just, there's nothing to do but to whinge, and that's what we're doing. So thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any other comments? While there are pros and cons of the ward system, these are two very much recognised and identified costs, being the cost of running that by-election. But to your point, Councillor Quilty, you know, we've got a new elected council with aspirations, wanting to achieve things, and we're going to be in this caretaker period, which is going to slow us down, and that's very frustrating, unfortunately. Councillor Aldridge, as the mover, would you like to close the comments?
Add to the collective whinge of the group and agree with everything that's been said. It is absolutely one of the negatives of the ward system. And I think it's incredibly unfair that ratepayers need to burden the cost of this. And, you know, I think as time goes on, other councils are going to be in the same situation, and eventually the collective noise is going to be so loud that the state government is going to have to look at this system that they've introduced. They can't ignore it. You know, eventually we're going to end up spending millions of dollars on by-elections. It's just ridiculous. That's my closing.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 11, reports for information, starting with the 11.1, the records of councillor meetings. Any questions or comments on 11.1? It's for information only. No questions or comments? So for 11.2, the decision register, any comments or questions on 11.2, the decision register? Give councillors some time to just go through that. No? Which then leads us to agenda item 11.3, Emergency Services Volunteer Fund Levy, for information only, a result of a request from previous meeting regarding this information coming to council. Noting there over $8 million that council will be collecting if the government continues to pursue the request of councils to collect the SVF on their behalf. Councillor Hall?
Okay, I wrote a little bit on this. This report is, as it's listed, as for information only. And it's been done in response to a motion put forward on the 23rd of June at the council meeting, requesting an officer report be presented to council on the estimated amount council will collect for the levy and associated financial risk. I thank the council officers for this report and their time and work in compiling information presented to us in the agenda papers. As you will see in this report, the appropriate amount, the portion amount of money that will be collected is, as our mayor just mentioned, is over $8 million in total, and $4.21 million alone from residential ratepayers, which is a staggering amount. And this is a huge amount of money that the state government will receive. This is money taken out of our community, and there's no guarantees that this money will actually come back. I'm hoping it will in support of our emergency services like they have promised, but I'll be interested to see how much actually does get given back. The levy will be billed alongside our council rates in our rates notice. Ratepayers cannot choose to pay only their rates while withholding the payment of the levy. Any refusal to pay the levy effectively leaves their entire account partially or fully unpaid. In such cases, this is what I'm reading from out of the report, council may need to take additional debt recovery. It is suggested in the report that there'll be could be a significant cost in recovering outstanding balances. The report also, which was an interesting fact, the report also states that the council is not required to cover the unpaid levy amounts from its own funds, which I thought there was talk that it may have to. Non-payment can still cause cash flow issues for council because payments are spread across all charges. Any part payment reduces the funds availability for council's own services and operations, not just a levy. If a large number of ratepayers delay or withhold payment, this could create funding gaps and add to debt recovery costs. If I could, through the mayor, get a council officer to explain this, because so it's across all services, it's supposedly calculated, but isn't the levy a percentage worked out on the value of your property and is separate to the rate calculation assessment? And it would be my understanding if you didn't pay for the levy and paid your rates, it would only have an impact on the amount received from the levy. Is this not correct?
So, through you, the CEO, maybe to Officer Quill to clarify that.
Councillor Hall, just to make sure I understand the question, because I think the question is when a ratepayer makes a payment, what are the mechanics in terms of the application of that payment to their outstanding debt, both with the council and with respect to the levy? Okay. We, through MAV, have legal advice from Maddox that let's assume for a hypothetical that the rates notice has $1,000 on it. 800 of that is rates, 200 is the levy. When a payment is made, we have to apply it proportionately to that. So if the person was to pay $100, we would actually have to apply $80 of that to the rates component and $20 of it to the fire services levy. It's not open to us or discretionary in that application, even if a ratepayer was to, for example, pay with the cheque. So say they had $100, they paid with the cheque and they wrote a note with the cheque saying, I want the $100 to be applied entirely to the rates component of the rates notice and not applied at all to the levy. It's not open to us to do that. We have to pro rata apply to all of the charges that are on the rates notice. And noting there that in the example I used, I was obviously being very hypothetical. There would typically also be waste charges on there as well. And the split wouldn't be as simple as that 80-20 example that I used.
It's just, when it's itemised on the rates, so you have your rate component and CIV value and that component, you have your waste bins separate, and you have your levy. What's to say the levy stays $300? You just take that out. I can't see why that couldn't be just done. But I'm not encouraging that, but it just, to me, it sort of seems a little bit.
The way in which the legislation is proposed to facilitate this doesn't allow that. So the lawyer from Maddox through MAV that provided this advice is Mark Hayes, who was one of the most eminent lawyers in public law in Australia. And essentially the advice says there is absolutely no wiggle or grey here, that the council is obliged to apply all payments across all charges on the notice, and there can't be a selective application just to the outstanding rates. It's a mechanism of how the state has drafted the legal instruments underpinning this.
All right, thank you for that. I mean, it gives clarity to me, but also clarity to our ratepayers, because that's possibly a situation that could arise. And
Absolutely.
We need to have that information on board. Okay, thank you. So with this, I believe there's still a lot more information to come about this issue, and as we've but that's going to put in a submission motion to the MAB. But as a councillor individually and myself, I will be representing the community. I will continue to advocate on behalf of this levy being rescinded, because I just think it's just, you know, over $8 million being taken out of our community is a massive amount of money. You know, country areas especially, you know, it's not easy. We've got limited ratepayers, and we've got a lot of infrastructure that we've got to provide. So, you know, whether we, as I said, whether we get this back in services to our emergency services and volunteers and what have you, I'll be interested to see. Somehow I doubt it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor
I
Aldridge.
just want to add to Councillor Hall, pretty sure we're all, you know, stand beside your views with that 100%. I don't think this council in any way supports the emergency services levy, and we will all be advocating on behalf of our community members to do everything we can.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cowan.
I'd just like to add a comment, just based on the previous sort of perception that this was something that really disproportionately affected rural and regional councils. I think over the weekend I got the strong impression from the metropolitan councils that this is going to affect everyone, because this will translate into increased rent. This will, you know, some of the poorer areas of metropolitan Melbourne where the rents are already significantly high, you can expect to see continue. And I say to our metropolitan cousins, get on board. Whilst the majority of us are already on board, we want a unanimous lineup of councils behind this, and singing all from the same hymn book that this is an unfair tax, and council shouldn't be imposed with the responsibility. Thanks for the work too on this paper. That's very informative.
Any other councillors? I'd just like to, just in the context of Councillor Hall, you mentioned residential ratepayers are going to be on the hook for $4.03 million collectively, but also noting our commercial landowners, over $3.5 million for those owning industrial and commercial property. And to the point Councillor Cowan just made about how it impacts metro local governments, so a lot of those have very high percentages of commercial buildings in their municipalities. So the way this ESVF has been calculated on a CIV, capital improved value, that rate in the dollar is way higher for commercial properties than it is for residential or primary producers. So they're actually even impacted more potentially. So the case for rural and regional councils as well as metro councils fighting against this introduction of the ESVF is compelling. It's strong. And as I said, I think at our last council meeting, I'm not aware of one of the 79 councils in Victoria that are agreeable to the principle of state government, local government being the collector of a state government revenue. And for our community listening to this meeting, please know that this council is absolutely on a unity ticket in its advocacy against the introduction of the ESVF. If that is the final comment.
Just like to add to, I totally agree with Councillor Cowan about this will impact renters as well, because resident owners have they've got to pass their costs on, otherwise it's unaffordable for them. So it will definitely impact renters, which are the ones probably doing it hardest in our community. But also, as our mayor has mentioned about commercial properties, I have real concern about our commercial, not just in our local area, but in the state of Victoria, because when businesses are going broke or moving out, you know, by the
Cost of
thousands. It's just, the cost is becoming unsustainable for people to stay in business. And I just think it's a regressive tax and should be really looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillor comments? No. For noting, thank you very much to the staff members involved in the preparation of that report. Agenda item 12 is notices of motion and there are none. Agenda item 13 is general business. I understand Councillor Powell, you've got some items there too.
I have two items. I'd like to acknowledge and make a note of thanks and congratulations to the Albury Wodonga NAIDOC committee for their for creating such a meaningful program of events during the NAIDOC week. And it was my privilege, of course, to take part in the flag lowering ceremony, which was held at Wodonga Council with 3 generations of the Murray family, who shared a warm welcome to country and a smoking ceremony, and very meaningful for that family to have three generations there. I think we are looking forward to a future led by those young voices, and there was young Luca there being deeply involved in the proceedings. So to the staff, thank you for the activities that you put together here at Wodonga Council, the story time at Hyphen Library, the weaving workshop, the movie night, and I think we've been able to celebrate the rich cultural experience through NAIDOC Week, and my deep thanks to the staff involved. I would also like to take a moment to recognise Dr. Leon Peter Francis, who passed away on the 22nd of June 2025. He was aged 83. He was known as Dr. Peter Francis to us. He was a general practitioner for almost 50 years and a general practitioner obstetrician. He was deeply committed to regional healthcare, and most people will remember Dr. Francis for his time at the Federation Clinic in West Wodonga. He and others established that in 1988 and is still going today. Colleagues and community members from around the region described him as a steadfast advocate who supported the development of regional medical services and championed trainee doctors. There wasn't really a time when Dr. Francis didn't have a trainee doctor under his wing, and his personal guidance and encouragement have left an immeasurable legacy in this region for trainees that have returned to actually take up practice in Wodonga. At the funeral service held at Conway Funeral Home on the 27th of June, there were lots of stories that spoke of his warmth, kindness and unwavering dedication to his family, but his patients often came first, and the many trainees that he oversaw in our community. Peter's contributions to healthcare in our region, his mentorship of young generation of clinicians, and his extraordinary kindness made a real difference to many. I know this through his personal care given to members of my family. On behalf of Wodonga City Council, I extend our deepest condolences to his wife Jan, his children Jackie and Sally, their partners Tim and Andrew, and his much loved grandchildren Sam, Monty, Josh, Baxter and Lila, who all loved him dearly. His service reminds us of the profound role that health professionals play in this area, not just in treating illness, but building community resilience and wellbeing.
I'd just like to add, he was a quintessential old school doctor. I remember I moved into town here in 88 actually, and that was a fantastic clinic. I had my son through the Federation Clinic. It was 3 doctors, Dr. Steele and Dr. Giltrap, and it was Giltrap that did my son. But yes, I always remember Dr. Francis as being one of those old school doctors that we all have a lot of confidence in and respect in, and it's very sad that he's passed on, but he has left a lot of respected views about him in the community, and yeah, it's exactly. Plus, move on. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan and Councillor Hall. Any other general business? I just noting that recently both the CEO and myself took leave for a couple of weeks, and just an acknowledgement and shout out to those that acted in our respective roles while we were away, that enabled us both to take some leave and a break. So thank you, Deputy Mayor Councillor Cowan, for stepping up as acting mayor, and Director Schultz as acting CEO for Matt as well. That's it under general business. So agenda item 14, urgent business, so there is none. Confidential business, nil. Confidential urgent business, nil. Which now leads us to the closure of the meeting. So the next scheduled meeting is for 6 p.m. Monday, August the 25th. Please note that the meeting be closed at precisely 7:10 p.m. Thank you very much for everyone's participation, those online and those in the chamber tonight. Thank you, staff. Thank you, councillors.